Dad wasn't initially going to get the vaccine. He was like, there's not enough research on it. It's too new. And then they came out and said, you don't get it, you don't travel. That was it. That was it. He was going, right? He is a Hall of Fame fastball player, and he's played for Canada. He's played all over the world, right? This man just is an invincible, great big thing that will not fall. Well, Pfizer got him. In April, he came through my door, and it was just as we were starting to understand that the vaccines were shedding and it wasn't good for young girls, but there wasn't a lot of information on that, right? So he came through the door, and I looked at him, and his skin was that gray color. I don't even know how to explain it. It looks like death, like you're washed out, and there's like this tinge of gray to it. And I looked at him and I said, you got the vaccine. And he just looked at me and he went, just stop with your anti-vax bullshit. Like, okay, whatever. We're not going to have the argument. Just kind of stay away from my kids for a little bit till we know, right? And anyways, he went and got the next one in June. And that's when he started getting these weird fainting spells. And between my sisters and I, we kind of put together a few episodes that had happened. And he was pretty shaken up about it because, number one, he was listening to me talk about it constantly and being a quack. Number two, I had sent him a bunch of articles about how the pilots were refusing to take it due to strokes midair and whatnot. So he was getting a little shaken, and it was unnerving for me too because my dad doesn't get scared. Not ever. So we'll fast forward to December of just last year, December 3rd. He flew down with a bunch of friends to Mexico. His first trip with friends out of this country. And by the next day, he had 2 strokes. He landed, he went for dinner, he got up, he had 2 strokes. He was in the hospital by December 5th. They found 2 massive clots in his neck, and he called me to tell me he was going in for surgery, and I said, what's your D-dimer at? Get them to do your D-dimer test. I need to know the levels you're at and how much you're clotting. I said, I told you this was going to happen, which in hindsight was the worst thing for me to say. I just didn't know what else to say, right? Because this is the last conversation I'll have with my dad coherently up until today. So he's like, yeah, I know, I don't. Okay, cool. Anyways, they go in for surgery and they find that the other side is 100% blocked. So now, in order to do anything, they've got to clear the worst side, obviously. So when they went in and did that, they released the other 2, and it caused the debilitating strokes. So he had bilateral infarct, which means he's had them both on both sides of the hemispheres of his brain, which is obviously debilitating to anybody. But now you've got this third one that runs deep, and they didn't think there was a comeback for that. And I didn't know at the time. So he's stuck in Mexico probably until, I believe he flew home on the 21st of December. And I wasn't allowed in until he passed his screening test for COVID when he landed here in Ontario. And so I got to go in and see him on the 23rd of December. And I mean, before I had even gotten into the room, they were already coming at me about pulling his plug and, what's coming next. And, just bringing it to my attention that this is not a quality of life for a man of this stature. Okay, I get it. I know. We had just sat down and talked about it a few months earlier, and he's like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to go. But he had always anticipated throwing a pump is what he called it. He was just going to throw a pump and that was going to be the end of it, right? No. So, he was in ICU-A for not that long. It felt really long, but they told me he would never move again. He would never communicate again. He would never understand again. He would never do anything of relevance. But when the doctor came into that room and sat down with me, and I was holding his hand, and they were trying to convince me to pull his plug, basically, his eyes opened up in this way that only family members would ever know. And just pure panic came across his face, like, I'm in here. Don't let them do it to me. And I caught it, and it really shook me up. And I had to catch my breath and kind of fight back the tears, because I'm like, am I seeing this? Am I not seeing this? Am I imagining this? Am I not? Like, this is crazy. But, we worked on it a while, and I said, squeeze my hand. 2 for yes, 3 for no. And we'll go from there. And he could do it. But they had me so backwards, questioning what I knew about my own dad and thinking reflexes but it was consistent, fool me once. It was consistent, and he would never do any of this for them. He, can you move, Sam? Can you move, Sam? And he'd just look at them like they had 3 heads, But I'd say, Dad, can you just move your arm? And he'd move his arm, and they'd be like, no, that's a reflex. I'm like, I know what the difference between a reflex and a movement is. I've got it. So it went on like this for a while. We had the social worker chasing us down constantly, trying to, aggressively be on us for this pulling the plug treatment stuff. And when I said, no, we're going to give him a chance, they decided to go and try and go after my sisters and friends. But it was just the most bizarre situation. So needless to say, he went from stage 1 to stage 2, which was up to ICU B, which wasn't acute care. And he rocked it out. He started moving. The doctor finally acknowledged that he was moving. And once that was the case, they moved him up to the stroke unit. And that's where everything went sideways quickly. So I had gone in to see him in the stroke unit the first day he was there, and he was so excited to be there, because I was like, Dad, this is it. This is it. One more step and you can come home. We'll bring you home. There's a place for you. And he was trying to sit up. He was moving his mouth. He was flailing his arms around. He knows what's happening. And then I called the next day to make my appointment, and they locked it down. They're like, nope, sorry. We have COVID running through the hospital. We're in full-on lockdown. And I said, oh, that's delightful. So when am I going to get to see my father? Well, we're not sure. Okay, well, it's only vaccinated people in that area. You confirmed that for me, like just the other day. So how did he end up with COVID if you're all vaccinated, right? Just asking the questions. Anyways, they didn't have an answer for me, and I would call every day and check in on them, and they were very vague, and they were, not offering a lot of information. And then on day 4 of this lockdown, the doctor called to tell me I need to get ready. He's going to be passing away soon. He's going into palliative. I said, I'm sorry, what? And she's like, yeah, his liver's shutting down. He's on insulin now. He's just non-responsive. And I said, when I left there, he was almost sitting up in the bed. There's no reason for this. And she's like, oh, yeah, he took a turn. He got COVID. I said, he got COVID? When was anyone going to call me and let me know that he had COVID? And if he had COVID, shouldn't I have COVID? Anyways, long story short, he was in lockdown a total of 11 days. And when I got that phone call, I went into fight or flight mode, because I knew they were lying to me on a massive scale. I panicked, and I kind of flew by the seat of my pants. I put together a healthcare team. There's an underground railroad of healthcare workers that are out there, and people that are sick of being treated like a number, and they want to be treated like people. So we sprung into action, and I thought, you know what? This is going to help build this system. This is going to lay the tracks. This is going to be hit and miss. Yes, I know. So either A, he's coming home to die with his family in peace, or B, he's coming home to heal, and that's how it's going to go. And we're going to show them all Who's wrong? So I wrote the note that Sunday, hired the nurses that Sunday, and found a doctor to make house calls that Sunday and submitted it. I got a phone call Monday morning from the hospital going, "Are you coming to get him today?" I said, "No, I'll be there to get him on Wednesday. Do I need to bring a nurse in to escort him home?" No. "Do I need to bring anything to make sure he is transported safely?" "Oh, no, he's okay." Okay. Wednesday comes. The whole team is here. You know, we've got them supposed to be picking Dad up at the hospital by 10 o'clock in the morning, and he's going to be here by 11:30. We've got all the equipment set up, all the oxygen, everything, you name it, we've got it. I get a phone call at 10:36. "Oh, well, no, we can't send your dad in a transport." I said, "What do you mean you can't send my dad in a transport?" "Well, you were supposed to supply us with a nurse, and you have to make sure that nurse is trained on suction." And I said, "Well, that's funny, because on Monday when I spoke with you, I asked you that specifically, and you said no. So what's changed?" The only thing that changed from then to Wednesday was the fact that they found out he wasn't just coming home to die. He was coming home to get a chance. And they knew we were going to figure it out, because they refused to give us his records. They refused to let us look at his records to determine what was going on in his blood, how high his levels were, and I sent the nurses in to go and figure it out. So it was absolutely disgusting. I said, "Fine. I've rebooked the transport for 4 p.m. We will all be there. Have him ready." All flustered and, didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do. And then I'm getting calls about, "Oh, I need you to sign these papers for what?" I said, "I'll sign whatever paper it is. He's leaving." So we get there, and I can't go up. The nurse has gone up. She's collecting everything. She was a total rock star. She went up there and sprung my dad, literally. She collected all of his belongings. They had him in a private room. My father is on a vent, not like oxygen, but he's got the trach in. He's freshly off the vent not long ago, but he's on oxygen and humidity and the whole 9 yards, and he's drowning in secretions, okay? They gave him a call button that he can't press and left him in a private room. So that was step one. Step two, when he got out of there, I said to him, he rolled down, he looked horrible. His stomach was touching the back of his spine. His hair was he looked like Santa Claus. And, we were just trying to roll him out. So I said, "Dad, you're coming home." And he looked at me like he didn't know if it was real or if it wasn't real. And then I had to tell him again when we got outside and the sun was shining down on him. And that's the first time he's seen the sun in probably a good month, right? And he got a tear in his eye, and it just rolled off the side of his nose. And, obviously I started crying, and I'm like, "Okay, we're going home. Get your ass in the car. Get your ass in the van. We're taking you home." So I followed him home. It was great. We got him home. The doctor was here. The nurses were here. And then we get him in the bed, and he's covered in bed sores. And I don't mean like little bed sores. I mean like sepsis-y, Ebola-looking, flesh-eating disease type of bed sores from his feet to around his bottom. And cuts where there should never be cuts, like tears of skin. The doctor was horrified. We were all horrified. And I don't even know what to do. And they're like, "Do we call the lawyer now?" I said, "The main thing is that he's home. Let's just give him a couple days to kind of chill out, relax, and figure out what's going on." And, he went through this very severe anxiety where he was, right? But he realized that nobody in this house was wearing a mask. So he could calm down. And once the drugs he was on wore off, and he could see our faces, and he realized it wasn't a dream. You could see the whole shift in his mind going on. He was so high constantly, And he finally realized it wasn't a dream he had. He was home. And now, 48 hours after he realizes he's home, he's sleeping. He slept. He closed his eyes. He didn't wake up for 2 days and 2 nights. It was awesome. And when he woke up, he was determined to fight. He truly was. He's on the ivermectin. It's doing wonders. You know, I threw out all of that garbage food that they feed him in the hospital. There was no way. That's what caused him to be on insulin. He's never been a diabetic in his life, and he's never needed insulin in his life. But he was on such a high level. It was disgusting. So we'll use those cans for target practice out in the back 40 there. And I mix his food. It's organic. It's grass-fed. It's filled with nootropics. And every day he gets so much better. So he can move all of his limbs. He can nod now and, say no. And if he is too tired, he'll raise his arm to say yes. He's trying to talk. We're working on taking the trach out. We are this close. And every day he's getting better. And he wants to stand. He wants to get up out of bed. And it's just, I get mad at myself because I almost listened to them. I almost went against my own gut and disempowered my knowledge and my abilities for the sake of their degree, So I thank God every day. I thank Canadian frontline nurses every day because they were a big part. Kristen, Sarah, Crystal, Lori Williams, all of them are imperative in the next phase of our medical system. We're going to watch the fall of the corrupt garbage, and you're going to see the rise of an actual healthcare system. I promise you, and I am helping them lay that groundwork. So it hasn't been easy. It's very expensive, and we weren't expecting the expense. I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, obviously, to save my dad. But we're making it work, and you know what? The funds keep showing up when they're needed. So I've put all my faith in the manifestation of that and the true good of people and, God, if you want to call it God, a creator, whatever you want to call it. I put my faith in that. And my family. They're phenomenal people. And people like you guys, If there weren't people like you guys, there would be none of these stories. So thank you.